Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gretchen, and today I am here with a reading recap to update you on what has been going on in my reading life over the last week or so. This is a type of video where I talk about the books that I have finished, the books I'm actively reading, and then sometimes the books that I am planning on reading in the future. So we're getting toward the end of the year, and I'm really trying to wrap up some of the books that I have had going for a while so we can start with a clean slate in January. I'm also participating in a readathon, and I figured toward the end I'd tell you my TBR for that I'm following for all of the prompts. So the first thing that I'll do is talk about the books that I have finished. There are just a couple of them. If you can't tell by my voice, I have been a little under the weather. It's something that has just started out very gradual and very slow. I just haven't been feeling great, but it just all of a sudden hit me full blown yesterday, and I'm struggling, but we're gonna try to get through filming and hopefully I don't lose my voice entirely. The first book that I finished is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune, and this is a follow-up to his book The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I read a few years ago. Now, I won't say too much about the subject or the plot of this book because I know there are still some of you out there that haven't read The House in the Cerulean Sea, and to talk about this plot would definitely give spoilers away to that book. But what I will say is, if you have read The House in the Cerulean Sea and enjoyed it, you're gonna absolutely love Somewhere Beyond the Sea as well. It follows the same group of characters with the addition of a new magical child named David, and he is a delightful little yeti. All of the characters in this book are so fun and charming and sweet, and you just want to give them all hugs. This is definitely a comfort series for me. It explores, love and belonging, and it focuses on LGBTQ plus characters and these magical children who the world would otherwise be afraid of or try to, erase from the world or hide them from the rest of the world. This orphanage that they live in allows them to thrive. They live in a very loving environment, and it's just such a sweet story. I absolutely love this series, and also I listen to the audiobooks while I follow along with the physical, and if you have ever read The House in the Cerulean Sea and you did that on audio, it's the same narrator that does all of TJ Klune's books, and he is the best narrator. He is so full of life. He breathes life into each of these characters. They all have their own distinct voices and accents, and it is just an absolute joy to listen to. And this is the type of book that just makes my soul happy, and it's not going to win any literary awards or anything like that, but it just, like I said, it's that comfort food or that comfort read for the soul, and I absolutely love his books for that. The next book that I finished is a book called Tell Me Everything by Elizabeth Strout, and this is actually the 5th installment in the Amgash series, which I am a huge fan of. I've read all of them, and to me, Elizabeth Strout is another one of those comfort authors for me. I absolutely love the way that she writes her characters. The characters that she writes, I feel like I personally know. I have connected with them. They are well-developed characters, and they are going through the types of life challenges that each of us goes through. The the trials and tribulations that normal people ponder, and life can get messy, and she just really has a knack for writing about those relationships, the good, the bad, the ugly, the things that bring us all together, the things that drive us apart. And every time I pick up a new Elizabeth Strout novel, I am just baffled at the way that she gets me to care and connect with these characters. Now, this one is interesting because it actually brings a lot of her books that she has written in this series kind of full circle, and it brings in another character from another series that she writes named Olive Kitteridge. And Olive Kitteridge, if you haven't read Olive Kitteridge, or Olive Again, I think was the follow-up, Olive Kitteridge is one of my favorite literary characters of all time. She is this grumpy, she's never happy about anything. She always has something negative to say. She always has a bee in her bonnet about something, but I absolutely adore her. She is such a fun character. She has such a strong presence, and I just love that. So for this book to include Lucy Barton, who has been part of the Amgash series from the beginning, to now have interactions with Olive Kitteridge, it was lovely. I absolutely adored it. And not only that, but the second book in the Amgash series was Anything is Possible, which was more of not necessarily following Lucy Barton, but it followed other characters, and we're learning about other characters too from Anything is Possible, and it's kind of bringing everything together. And I loved every minute spent with this book. I know that at some point in time this series is going to have to come to an end, but every moment that I spend with a book by Elizabeth Strout is never time wasted for me. I just absolutely loved everything about it. Now, the other book that I finished, before I tell you what that title is, I will just say that it is a title for a readathon that I'm participating in. I am following along with the Reindeer Readathon, as some of you may be participating in that as well. It's an annual readathon that starts from December 1st and goes through the end of the month, and there are different prompts for each of the reindeers and some bonus prompts as well. And it's just a fun way to round out the year with this fun little read along. And there's a huge community on Discord following along with it, and it's just been a lot of fun. Now, unfortunately, it's closed for this year, but it has been really fun for me so far. This is the first year I'm participating in it, and I'm really having a nice time. So consider it for next year if that's something that you want to do. I love the idea of having kind of these festive themed reading prompts to follow along with, and trying to find books to fit in with them. And the content that has been on YouTube related to the readathon has just been great, and everybody has just been so nice, and I've enjoyed my time with it. Now, there are, as I mentioned, a bunch of different themes or a bunch of different prompts to follow, and I had one specific prompt that I used my next book that I'll talk about for, and that was a prompt that had me, if my favorite music genre were a book, what would that book be? So basically to kind of like read a book that aligns with or what you would consider your favorite music genre. And my favorite music genre is rock, and I decided to read a horror book for that. And I thought, well, if I'm going to read a horror book, why not read one that includes rock music? So I read We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. Now, there was also a bonus prompt for this that this book fell in line with, which is to read a book outside of the typical genre that you read. I very, very rarely read horror, so I thought that this would be be a good fit for that prompt as well. So this book, unfortunately, I didn't get along with very well. It was a good enough story. Basically, we have this woman named Chris in her younger days. She was a part of this up-and-coming rock band, and then they eventually disbanded because one of the members decided to go solo, and then he went on to success, and the rest of the band members just kind of basically made nothing of their lives and, you know, had to watch him go make all of this success. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is there is some sinister things involved where basically the woman Chris finds out that there were some deals made with them basically selling their souls over to the devil so that this man could have success, and she's basically trying to fight to get her life back. And yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. Like I said, I don't think that this is anything because of the book. I think it's just because horror is not my favorite genre. I've actually seen a lot of great reviews about this book for people that do follow horror as their primary genre. So don't let my opinion of the book sway you from reading it if you do enjoy horror. It was fun at times. It was funny. It was a little gross at times. I have read another Grady Hendrix book, The Southern Guide to Slaying Vampires or something to that effect, which I actually really did enjoy that book. I felt that that book was scarier or had more horror elements than this one did. To me, this one was solely almost like shock factor kind of horror, and it was basically primarily like body horror and horrible things happening to human bodies and things like that. But yeah, it was fun enough ride. It was good for the prompt. But I'm happy to be done with it, and then I can move on to some of the other books that are on my TBR for that. So speaking of my TBR for the readathon, I just want to talk about some of the books that I'm actively reading for it. I am reading 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This is a book that has been on my TBR forever, and this was a perfect opportunity for me to get it. There was a prompt related to choose a book that centered around a special event or a date. I took that literally and had the title be a date. This book follows an alternate timeline where we have a character that is able to go into the past and try to prevent the Kennedy assassination. So it's been very interesting. I'm about 3/4 of the way through with it. I'm having actually a really great time with it. I know there are a lot of Stephen King haters out there, but the man knows how to tell a story, and I'm really enjoying my time with it. It's also a very chunky book. I think it's over 600 pages, so it's taking me a little longer. I'm reading it toward the beginning of the month to get the big one out of the way. I'm also actively reading a book called Great Granny Webster. This is a book that was shortlisted or longlisted for the Booker Prize a long time ago. It's by Caroline Blackwood, and she is actually a part of the Guinness family, and this book follows her kind of telling us a little bit about almost like the dirty laundry of her family. She starts by telling us about a time that she spent living or staying with her great granny Webster, and then we learn a bit about great granny Webster, and then we move to learning about her aunt and then her father. I'm about 3/4 of the way through with that as well, and it's really interesting because it's a book that is autobiographical, and she's really bringing to light drama that kind of comes with that generational wealth, and it's funny, it's dark at times, and I'm enjoying my time with that as well. So I won't go into detail with these next titles, but these are other books that I have on my Reindeer Readathon TBR, and you'll hear more about them in the next few videos as I finish them. But I plan on reading Intermezzo, Eastbound, Memories of My Melancholy Whore, Mrs. Caliban, and Winter in Sokcho. Now, I am also still in the process of reading a couple other big books. I am still chugging along with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I am about 3/4 of the way through. I am still chugging along with Les Mis. And yeah, I'm having a really good reading time right now. I'm pretty much enjoying most of what I am reading and having a good time. I am not really worried about getting all of the books done by the end of the year. I feel pretty confident that I can. I have a lot more time at the moment than I typically do, so I've been enjoying reading a lot more lately and really focusing on it. So I'm also actively coming up with my best of, worst of lists. I worked on some of that yesterday. I have my potential lists, or my preliminary list, but I do have to narrow them down. So by the end of the year or very early into next year, you should see those videos coming out as well. And thanks for taking the time to sit with me and have this chat. I'm sorry that my voice has been so froggy throughout the duration of this. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a rest now, and until we read again, bye.